All right, let's jump right in. Today's explainer takes us way back to 1887, straight into the heart of late Qing Dynasty China. We're looking at a massive, ancient empire that's basically teetering on a knife's edge between monumental change and total collapse. We are going to unpack a natural disaster so profound, so devastating, that it literally altered the course of an entire nation. Okay, let's dive into this because the sheer scale of this is almost impossible to wrap your head around. Up to 2 million deaths. When we usually think about floods, we think rising water, destroyed homes, and yes, tragic loss of life, but usually on a localized level. So how on earth does a single river breach rack up a death toll of 2 million people, making it the deadliest flood in human history? Well, to figure that out, we have to peel back some layers. To understand a catastrophe of this magnitude, we have to look past just the water itself. Here's our roadmap for today. 1. The cradle and the curse. 2. The Huayuankoufollowing dike breach. 3. Disease, famine, 2 million. 4. Corruption and relief failures. And 5. Drowning the Qing Empire. Part 1. The cradle and the curse. To really set the stage here, you have to picture a society being ripped in two different directions. A great way to visualize this ideological clash in 1887 China is through the characters in Edward Rutherford's historical novel China. Imagine this retired official, Shi Rong. He's totally steeped in traditional Confucian philosophy. He cares about moral foundations, family honor, but he's also incredibly disillusioned by a stagnant bureaucracy. Then look at his grandson, Bao Yu. He represents the new world, right? He looks at the mighty Yellow River and wants to bring in Western mechanics, build dredgers, become a modern engineer. And this exact debate, traditional fatalism versus desperate modernization, was entirely paralyzing the Qing court exactly when they needed to act. And while all the politicians and scholars were busy arguing, the geography of the river was basically a ticking time bomb. See, for centuries, traditional dike building just trapped the Yellow River's incredibly heavy silt. That silt settles, it raises the riverbed, so farmers build the dikes even higher. The result, a raised riverbed. The Yellow River was literally flowing at an elevation higher than the surrounding plains. It's like an ocean suspended right over people's farmlands. Which brings us to part 2, the Huayuankoufollowing dike breach. So let's walk through exactly what happened. Late September 1887. You've got days of relentless, heavy rain swelling an already bloated river. By September 28th, the sheer impossible volume of storm water finally overcomes those massive earthworks. The dikes breach at a place called Huayuankoufollowing, near Zhangzhou. And because the river was sitting up above the plains, gravity just did the rest. The water crashed violently downward, swamping a massive 50,000 square miles of territory. And this brilliantly illustrates the terrifying physical scale we're talking about here. The gap torn through those dikes wasn't just a little spillway. It was 1,650 meters wide. That is over a mile wide. Just picture a wall of roaring, muddy water instantly erasing over 1,500 entire villages. Millions of acres of farms and commercial hubs just completely swallowed up in a flash. Moving to part 3, disease, famine. 2 million. 2 million estimated deaths, 2 million people left completely homeless overnight. Now, historical estimates on the low end sit around 900,000, but so many indicators point to that catastrophic 2 million mark. But here is the absolutely crucial thing to understand. Drowning alone didn't kill that many people. You don't reach 2 million dead without some major secondary killers. The initial rush of water was horrifying, absolutely. But the vast majority of those fatalities actually happened in the agonizing weeks and months that followed. Think about it. You've got stagnant floodwaters sitting over low-lying plains. That's the ultimate breeding ground for disease. Huge epidemics ripped through the refugee populations. Plus, the flood wiped out all the farmland right before winter, causing a catastrophic regional famine. There was zero clean water, zero food, no shelter. Starvation and disease effectively doubled the devastation, proving far deadlier than the rushing water itself. Part 4, corruption and relief failures. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the gap between official promises and the grim reality on the ground. Human error and greed really turned a natural disaster into a bureaucratic massacre. In the aftermath, local leaders like Shandong's Governor Cheng Yao promised relief, specifically 1,000 cash for every adult and 500 for every child. On paper, it sounds like the government is taking charge and stepping up. But here is how that system actually operated. Step 1. The Qing court allocates the relief funds. Okay, good. Step 2, corrupt, deeply entrenched bureaucrats. Intercept those funds and just skim the silver right off the top. Step 3, the life-saving aid literally never reaches the peasants who are freezing and starving in the mud. This wasn't a minor hiccup. It was a total breakdown of the social contract. The government totally failed to protect its people, and it permanently shattered their legitimacy. Which brings us to our final section, drowning the Qing Empire. Let's look at the financial ruin here, because the macro-level consequences are wild. Plugging a mile-wide hole in a river is no joke. It cost the Qing court a staggering 12 million taels of silver just to repair the dikes at Huayuankoufollowing. To put that in perspective, that single repair bill ate up roughly 15% of the empire's entire annual revenue. For a state already stretched thin, this was a massive, unexpected drain. It instantly halted vital modernization projects like funding the Biang naval fleet, leaving the empire incredibly vulnerable. And the socio-political fallout? Cascading and catastrophic. Like we said, industrialization stalled out. That bitter political fight over Western engineering versus traditional methods, it just got deeper. But most dangerously, you had millions of starving, angry people wandering the plains of Henan and Shandong. They were a powder keg. This total failure by the state directly seeded the Boxer Rebellion just over a decade later and basically put the fall of the Qing dynasty on fast forward. Which brings our narrative full circle to this incredible quote. The Yellow River is famous as the cradle of Chinese civilization, the root of tradition. But in 1887, it proved to be this terrifying force of flux. The destruction of that roaring, muddy water perfectly mirrored the unstoppable historical collapse of the old Confucian order. It was literally washing the empire away. So I want to leave you with a thought as we wrap up this explainer. The 1887 flood didn't kill 2 million people just because it rained a lot. It killed 2 million people because a massive natural event slammed into a society plagued by technological stagnation, corruption, and political denial. Extreme nature is like an X-ray. It exposes a government's deepest structural flaws. Looking at our world today, right, with changing climates and massively complex bureaucracies, what modern institutions might crack under the immense pressure of tomorrow's inevitable disasters? It's a heavy question for sure, but absolutely one we need to ask. Thank you so much for exploring this vital history with me, and keep questioning, keep learning.